I'm Sharon Tazwell. Here's your Spectrum News in 90. Donald Trump's hush money trial has adjourned for the day, with a key witness who represented Stormy Daniels and Carrie McDougal taking the stand Tuesday. Attorney Keith Davidson walked jurors through the alleged negotiations that led to Daniels' hush money payments. The judge overseeing the case ruled Tuesday Trump violated a gag order. He is now required to pay a $9,000 fine.
There's no crime. There's no anything here. And that's what these legal scholars say. How can you bring a case like this?
Pro-Palestinian protests continue to escalate on college campuses nationwide. Columbia University is threatening to expel students who broke into an academic building. Since April 18th, more than 1,000 people have been arrested on college campuses from coast to coast. Speaker Mike Johnson says House Republicans will investigate.
Over the last across America.
The U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration is moving to reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous drug. The proposal would recognize the medical use of cannabis and acknowledge it has less potential for abuse than some of the nation's most dangerous drugs. Those are your headlines now. Let's take a look at your weather on the ones.
Hi there, I'm meteorologist Robert Santos. A pretty active day throughout parts of the central U.S. once again. Now, overnight, we are expecting some of those showers to move across the Midwest. And then for Wednesday, quiet start. But then in the afternoon, we'll get some storms firing up once again over the plains into the evening hours from the northern to southern plains as well. So definitely stay weather alert in these areas once again. A big chunk of the central U.S. where temperatures will start off in the 60s and then get up into the 70s and 80s.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Sharon Tazwell. Another historic day inside a Manhattan courtroom. Testimony resumed Tuesday in Donald Trump's hush money trial, with several witnesses, including two key players, involved in the case. The jury heard from an attorney who represented former Playboy model Carrie McDougal and porn star Stormy Daniels in the hush money negotiations. Keith Davidson testified that he was part of negotiations that led to Daniels' hush money payments, which is at the center of the case. Jurors also heard from Michael Cohen's former banker, Gary Farrow, who provided details about paperwork tied to the $130,000 payment to Daniels. And outside the courtroom, Trump took shots at the judge overseeing the case, who ruled that the former president violated a gag order.
This gag order is not only unique, it's totally as far as everybody is concerned. If you read the great legal scholars and experts, everybody said this is a trial that is nonsense. It should have never been brought. That's showing loud and clear.
A New York appeals court Tuesday denied the former president's latest attempt to halt the trial. Trump was asking to pause proceedings while pretrial rulings play out. Court is set to resume Thursday morning. Campus protests continue to intensify across the U.S. as some pro-Palestinian protesters are refusing to vacate their encampments, many now occupying buildings. Students at Columbia University barricaded themselves inside a campus building Tuesday. University officials threatening to expel them. New York City Mayor Eric Adams is set to meet with Columbia leaders to determine next steps. Meantime, on Capitol Hill, House Speaker Mike Johnson vowed that House
Republicans to thrive on campus, and we will hold these universities accountable for their failure to protect Jewish students on campus. And that's why today we're here to announce a House-wide effort to crack down on anti-Semitism on college campuses.
Spectrum's Jillian Jorgensen reports tonight from Columbia.
We're here on Amsterdam Avenue, just outside of the Columbia University campus and just outside of Hamilton Hall, a building that student protesters occupied overnight in a significant escalation of the tensions and of the protests that have been taking place here at Columbia for nearly 2 weeks, with an encampment remaining up on the lawn for that long. And now with more demonstrators from around the city coming out to support these students outside of the university gates. Students smashed windows to get inside Hamilton Hall around 1 o'clock in the morning. That comes after many of those participating in the encampment were to agree to follow campus rules by a deadline of 2 p.m. yesterday. As of this afternoon, students had piled up furniture and other debris in front of the doors to Hamilton Hall as a makeshift barricade. Some students were sitting outside the hall while others remain inside, and in fact, Earlier today, we saw one person on the roof waving a Palestinian flag. The only people being let through the gates here at Columbia are students who live in the dorms on campus or essential staff. But the university did let some media onto campus this afternoon, where pro-Palestinian protesters held a news conference saying they had renamed Hamilton Hall to Hind Hall in memory of a 6-year-old Palestinian girl killed in Gaza last year.
We will never forget each and every single one of the more than 42,000 Palestinians whose lives were stolen unjustly in the past 7 months, or the more than 14 financially made profit off of murdering.
Despite the smashed windows and trespassing into Hamilton Hall, we have not yet seen a response on campus from the NYPD, but NYPD officials say they're in daily communication with university officials.
The NYPD is always ready, but we will not be going on to Columbia's property without a specific request for them, or not unless there is imminent danger, imminent emergency where we have to go on the property. There's an imminent emergency, someone screaming for help, someone needing assistance, being hurt. We will go on the property to address that situation. But as far as the protesters, the people who are elevating their voice, we will not go onto that property until we get a specific request for Columbia University. And as of right now, we do not have that request.
And Columbia has largely locked down the campus in response to this building occupation. And in a statement, a Columbia spokesperson said, students occupying the building face expulsion. Students who did not commit to the terms we offered are now being suspended. Those students will be restricted from all academic and recreational spaces and may only access their individual residence. Seniors will be ineligible to graduate. This is about responding to the actions of the protesters, not their cause. And all of this is coming during finals week here at Columbia. This is reading week when students would normally be getting ready to take their final exams. Many tell me that those final exams have been moved online, but the university is still set to hold a commencement in person on the lawn where that encampment is right now. That is supposed to be held on May 15th. In Manhattan, Jillian Jorgensen, Spectrum News.
Protests in the U.S. come as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel will destroy Hamas's battalions there with or without a ceasefire deal. It comes as Israel continues its attack on Hamas militants, releasing new video Tuesday of an airstrike on targets in Gaza. Hamas is considering a new proposal that would release dozens of hostages in exchange for a pause in Israeli attacks on Gaza. Ahead of a visit to Israel, Secretary of State Antony Blinken toured an aid warehouse in Gaza. The top U.S. diplomat urged Hamas to accept the deal.
Our focus right now is on getting a ceasefire and hostages home. The Israelis have put a strong proposal on the table. They've demonstrated that they're willing to compromise, and now it's on Hamas. And no more delays, no more excuses. The time to act is now.
Israel's nearly 7-month war in Gaza has killed more than 34,000. Just ahead on Spectrum News, history in the making, where the Biden administration is working to change regarding marijuana.
Spectrum News Plus. News from a new perspective, dedicated to refreshing storytelling and empowering communities across the nation. With balanced reporting, providing real context and in-depth coverage 24 hours a day.
Here's a look at your forecast across the country.
Local stories, connecting communities. We are Spectrum News Plus. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
Sorry, guys, that took me for... What is this?
Well, you know how our T-Mobile home internet can slow down?
Uh-huh.
Turns out, walls...
Spectrum internet, which is fast and reliable 24/7. You got us internet that can be blocked by walls.
Yes, but I think I fixed it.
By smashing a hole through our wall.
Well, technically, walls. Yeah, I might not want to go in the dining room.
Don't settle for T-Mobile cell phone internet.
Kids are natural.
This is why I don't leave the house.
Get faster, more reliable internet speeds with Spectrum.
When I never graduated from high school, I realized I wanted to go back to school because I didn't want to work these back-breaking jobs the rest of my life. With the help of my father and having my son, That was all the motivation that I needed to come back to school. I felt accomplished, made me feel that I could take on whatever challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go, to open their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
The Biden administration says it's moving to reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous drug. The move marks a historic shift of American drug policy that could have wide ripple effects across the country. Spectrum's Evan Kozloff is in Washington with how restrictions could ease.
Reportedly is on the way. The Associated Press reporting that the Justice Department is preparing to reclassify marijuana as a Schedule III drug, putting it on the same level as ketamine and Tylenol with codeine. That would be a major change from its current Schedule I designation, the same level as heroin, LSD, and ecstasy, drugs seen as having no acceptable medical use and a high potential for abuse.
It didn't make us feel like mission accomplished at all.
Matthew Schweik from the Marijuana Policy Project says this change would unlock more research and remove some of the burdens on medical marijuana users and providers, but says it still stops short of the complete legalization that he's been fighting for. What's the difference between Schedule I and Schedule III?
Schedule III still classifies cannabis as more dangerous than Xanax and Valium, which, that statement alone tells you that there's still something seriously out of whack.
President Joe Biden called for a review of federal marijuana law 18 months ago. The change, if it's finalized, the announced change was greeted by enthusiasm by many lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. Senator Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts posting simply, "It's a big deal." But some, like Republican Representative Andy Harris of Maryland, blasted the move, writing in part, removing restrictions on an addictive gateway drug like marijuana is a dangerous mistake. The proposal still needs approval from a White House agency and will need to go through a public comment period, meaning this is likely still months away from becoming a reality. And this proposed change would do nothing to address state law, including in a handful of states where marijuana is completely illegal. Right now, medical marijuana is allowed in 38 states, while recreational use is legal in 24 states. Reporting here in Washington, this is Evan Kozloff, Spectrum News.
We are learning new details in the deadly shooting of 4 law enforcement officers in North Carolina. Authorities say the officers were at a disadvantage as they approached a home to serve a warrant. The suspect began firing at police from an upstairs position. Carla Reddit is in Charlotte with the latest.
8 families had to be told that their loved one had been shot in the line of duty. Tragically, 4 of those families have made the ultimate sacrifice.
The outcome of Monday's deadly gunfight between law enforcement and an armed suspect in Charlotte, North Carolina, is tragically clear. But full understanding of how it all unfolded is not.
The investigation into this tragic, brutal, deadly attack will result in more answers that we don't know today.
Monday afternoon, members of a U.S. Marshal task force approached a home, attempting to serve an arrest warrant on a convicted felon suspected of possessing a firearm. Police say they came under fire from a high-powered rifle. 3 were fatally shot. As additional officers responded, more were injured. Police identified the suspected gunman as 39-year-old Terry Clark Hughes Jr.
We did recover so far an AR-15 rifle, a 40 caliber handgun.
A 4th responding officer who was shot died at a hospital Monday night. 4 other officers who were injured are all expected to fully recover, according to the department. And every officer who ran toward the gunshots honored as a hero.
To me, that's truly heroic when you hear the gunshots and the rapid fire and they're running directly into it because they know that there are people that need help and they risk their own lives to do that.
Carla Reddit, Spectrum News.
The U.S. Preventive Services Task Force has updated how often it recommends mammograms. The panel now says for women at an average risk of breast cancer, screening should start at age 40. Screenings are then recommended every other year. Breast cancer is the second most common form of cancer in women, and also recommended mammograms begin at age 40. Off to the races. This weekend's Kentucky Derby will feature something not seen in decades. Just ahead on Spectrum News.
An answer to one of society's biggest questions may be found in the youngest minds. Does poverty impact a child's development, their performance in school? The hypothesis that mothers who have access to cash raise babies with stronger brain development.
The basis of the baby's first year study is really to understand whether providing economic support would change children's trajectories.
Exploring your health, budgeting for brain development, available on all your favorite devices.
Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
And forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
The Supreme Court says it will allow Texas to enforce age verification requirements for adult video sites. Tuesday, it rejected a request from the adult entertainment industry to block the requirement on First Amendment grounds. It's online because it forces adults to identify themselves before accessing adult video content. The underlying appeal is still pending. All right, so AAA says gas prices may have peaked for the season. The national average for a gallon of regular unleaded is $3.66, about a penny less than last week. Gas prices on the West Coast are the highest. 7 states are above $4 a gallon, led by California at $5.40 a gallon. Home prices went up at the fastest rates in over a year during the month of February. The U.S. National Home Price Index jumped 6.4% year over year. That is the fastest rate of growth since November of 2022. Economists say it's a sign the U.S. housing market is staying strong despite high mortgage rates. The 2024 Tony Award nominations are announced Tuesday, topping the lists of nominees. Alicia Keys' Stereophonic, a play about a fictional 1970s band, also got 13 nominations. A record number of women were also nominated for Best Director. And on a personal note, my brother-in-law, Paul Tazewell, has been nominated for Best Costume Design for the musical Suffs. The 150th Kentucky Derby will take place over the weekend, and for the first time in 35 years, and only the second time since 1951, a black trainer will have a horse in the Kentucky Derby. Spectrum's Austin Schick shares why he has chosen to defy the odds and race his horse at the world-renowned Derby.
I've been training race horses.
At over 70 years old, Larry Demerit still finds passion in his job. The Bahamian native turned Kentuckian has been training racehorses as long as he can remember.
Just have a love for these horses.
Old Gray Colt, West Saratoga, are preparing for the biggest race, the Kentucky Derby. Demerit is the first black trainer in the Run for the Roses since 1989.
I feel really honored to be able to represent especially the Caribbean. That is the coolest thing for me, to represent my country and the Caribbean, all the islands, with something positive.
Demerit's interest in horse training began in the Bahamas with his father. He moved to the United States in the 1970s and quickly settled in Kentucky, the thoroughbred capital of the world. It was a perfect fit.
I've been blessed quite a bit by being in Kentucky, meet really good people. The horse sales, I always say people could come from all over the world to buy horses in Kentucky. I don't need to go nowhere else.
Perhaps his biggest win, rare organ disease as well. In 2018, doctors gave him 6 months to live, but he's still here, waking up at 5 a.m. to train the horses he loves and says keeps him going along with his faith.
That's every day. Besides Sunday, I don't train on Sundays. That's my day off. That's my church day.
Continuing to defy the odds in life, Demerit hopes to do the same Saturday with this horse by his side. In Lexington, Austin Schick, Spectrum News.
I'm Sharon Tazwell. Thanks for watching. Your Spectrum News in 90 is coming up right after this short break. Stay with us.
At Spectrum News, we're committed to strengthening the fabric of local communities through our reporting, with stories that inspire and news that matters. Streaming live on your... It's all there as you step outside with the Spectrum News mobile app, keeping you informed and in the know throughout your day. Spectrum News Plus, local stories, connecting communities. Exclusively for Spectrum customers. Now available on your favorite devices.
At Spectrum, our workforce of over 100,000 employees are all located right here in the U.S. You can find them in our stores, in the field, and in our call centers with 100% U.S.-based customer service. Our team works hard to provide the towns, cities, and neighborhoods they live in with the reliable services that everyone counts on, making us one of America's most trusted companies. We're Spectrum, creating jobs and opportunities across the country, and proud to be 100% U.S.-based.
Today I'm going to talk to you about physics. Come on in, girls. Let's structural engineer, designing and building parts of the rocket. You are the generation that will be stepping foot on Mars. Do I have a group of astronauts on my hands? Yes. You can become a rocket scientist or whatever else you want to be.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.